too.
I remember Aggie.
How are you, Billy?
All right, same.
Okay. How many years ago? 7 years ago.
Is it that long?
Yeah,
Okay.
so long.
Yeah, I get people who I bump into and they just
Yeah.
come to me and go like, "Hey, I attended your training 23 years ago." It's like, wow.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the video.
Sure.
Okay, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining me for this evening's session. Tonight, we are discussing about NLP and neuroplasticity. Okay, first of all, that's not to be confused with rhinoplasty. Rhinoplasty is a cosmetic procedure to do a nose job. All right, so they call it rhinoplasty. And for a long time, being someone who's into NLP, neuro linguistic programming, I'm always a little bit concerned and tend to pay more attention on the word use and the choice of words, right? So the first thing that comes to my mind is, why do we call it a rhinoplasty when it comes to doing a human nose job? You know, why is it rhino? Because if I say rhino, what comes to mind? We do a simple experiment here now, okay? When I say rhino, what comes to your mind? An animal, right? The rhinoceros. Is that correct? Okay. By the way, what has just happened is we have just activated your neuroplasticity. All right. So humans, unlike animals, we are kind of blessed in the sense that we have the capabilities and the abilities to remember, to think, to access feelings in our mind, and to manifest behaviors by beginning and kickstarting the process in our mind. Right. Animals, on the other hand, don't have this kind of luxury. Right. In other words, they tend to be more focused on the present, what it is now. Right. For example, my dog, Maui. Maui does not wake up on the morning of the 1st of January and start thinking, this year, my goal is 100 bones. See, Maui doesn't think like that, right? But we humans think like that, all right? So we have the capabilities to imagine, we remember, and we process, okay? So in that sense, I believe that we are more neurotic rather than focus on the present. So a lot of our daily processes, we are very focused in the mind. Yeah. Okay, so to begin with, now I mentioned earlier on that when I ask you to think of something, like when I mentioned the word rhino, what comes to mind? You have already kickstarted the process of neuroplasticity. All right, neuroplasticity simply means that there's an ongoing process in our brain where our brain will create new neurons, where our brain will establish connections between the different neurons. So obviously, different neurons are responsible for different things, right? So when our brain activates all these neurons and start creating the connections that form a neural network. All right. So for example, if we perform a behavior for let me think of an example of a behavior. Say if you have a bad habit of biting your nails, right? When you manifest, when you actually take the action, when you actually have the behavior of biting your nails, you have activated a whole neural network inside your mind. Yeah, I think perhaps it's easier for me to share with you some pictures that I've gotten today, just so that I can show you what it's like. Now I am playing around with the computer and the slides at the same time. How come I'm not seeing anything I want to see? Let me see. Okay, so I got the screen.
If you want to share screen.
Give me a moment, new to this. This is new for me. Hey, I cannot share screen.
You should be able to. Hang on, give me a second.
Okay, I can share screen, but when
Yeah.
I do that, what happened is I need to project my slide first, right?
Yes.
So the thing is, when I project my slide, it occupies the whole screen and I cannot get back to the Zoom window.
F3.
F3.
Yes.
Okay, how do I do F3? I need to shift, is it?
Why don't you stop the share? Stop the full screen first. Go into share screen, then only
Okay.
project the screen.
Hey, is that how it works? I thought it's the other way. Let me try that again. Okay, so go share screen. Yeah, but my whole PowerPoint come out, right?
Yeah. Now you click on the projection. At the
Now I
bottom.
click on the projection.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Is that how it works?
Yep.
Okay, so as you can see, that's a picture of when a neural network is being activated. All right, so there are different neurons that light up in the mind, different brain cells that light up in the mind, and that these brain cells have a connection with one another. So it forms a neural network. In other words, we can call it a program, we can call it a pattern. All right, so we activate a whole program. When you think about the rhinoceros, you activated a whole program. All right. So when you activate your brain program, if you can see the arrow, right about here is probably where in your mind you actually can see a visual image. All right. Because your visual cortex neurons has been accessed as well. Now, if you hear sounds, then your auditory cortex is being accessed. If you can remember how it feels like if you touch the rhinoceros skin, I don't know how many of you dare to do that, but if you can imagine how that is like, then you're activating this part of your brain. And if you can smell the rhinoceros, then you're activating this part of the brain. All right. So in so doing, you have activated a whole network, a whole neural network. All right. So neuroplasticity is actually an ongoing process where your brain adapts, when your brain learns, when your brain reorganizes, reprograms because of things that happen outside of you, because of thoughts, because of any stimulus that comes to you. All right. So anything that prompts you to get into a program, get into a thought, get into a behavior, get into a certain feeling state. In your brain, there's a whole neural network that's being activated. Okay, so tell me, can we teach old dogs new tricks? Can we teach old dog new tricks?
You're referring to dogs or people?
Huh? No, I'm talking about people. Okay, I'm talking about dogs first, animals first. All right, animals first.
We are not seeing your projection screen, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, no slide now. No slide now. Okay, I keep having the Zoom thingy pop up here and there about accessibility and
You
things
need
like
to
that.
do projection.
No, I don't want to project the slide now. I just want to come back to the view to talk to you.
Okay, that's fine. Then stop share.
Yeah. Okay. So where was I?
Yep. Can we teach old dog new tricks?
Yeah, can we teach old dog new tricks? Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because they too, like us, have a brain, and when there's a brain, when there's this organ within us, there's always this ongoing process of neuroplasty that's ongoing. In other words, every time we learn something new, and we are practicing this new thing that we have learned, you have actually activated and form a new process of neuroplasty. All right. So in short, neuroplasty, that's what it means. Okay. And I think how many of you came because of the word neuroplasty?
Neuroplasticity.
Yeah, neuroplasticity. Yeah, that's the word that attracted you to, hey, I want to find out what that is. All right. In effect, it simply means a program, a pattern, a process that the brain, where the whole neural network is being activated. All right. So that's what neuroplasty means. Now, so my objective this evening is firstly to share some knowledge and information with this relatively new concept, because neuroplasticity is often talked about by neuroscientists. And I'm not a neuroscientist, neither am I a neuroscience expert. All right? The reason I said so is because recently I saw some NLP trainers who advertise themselves as neuroscience expert. So I'm nowhere near that. Don't dare to say that, because neuroscientists typically work in the lab. All right. So neuroplasticity is a new thing that's exciting, and so it's relatively new. And obviously, I'm excited to share that with you this evening. Now, along the way, then we also discuss ways to enhance your neuroplasticity. In other words, how and what you can do with this concept, with this new knowledge of neuroplasticity, in order to empower ourselves better, in order to become better at giving training and coaching, in order to become more effective at therapy, and maybe even in every other areas of our life. All right. So when we perform a behavior, there is a neuroplasticity process. When we access a certain feeling states, there is a neuroplasticity process. All right, let me just call it NP in short. It's quite a mouthful. All right, so we have an NP process, as with every single thought, every time we access a feeling, every time we perform a behavior. All right, and obviously, all this becomes, so all this interlinked. All right, the law of attraction, self-fulfilling prophecy, and of course NLP, because see, from the time we were born, right? I mean, this used to be the old belief. We used to believe that when you are born, the organs within you will develop, and so when you come to a certain stage where your brain is mature, then your brain is fixed. Okay, so here's the good news. Our brain is actually not fixed. Like as with any other cells, fibers and nerves in our body, they will die, and the new one will regrow. All right, and we will produce new ones. All right, so that goes the same with our neurons. So 100 billion neurons that we have today is not the same 100 billion neurons that you had when you were a child. All right, so the good thing about this to me is then our past is not our prediction. Our past is not our prediction. It's like we are all products of our past, but we don't have to be prisoners of our own future. In other words, however and whatever that's been programmed into us, all the NP neuroplasticity processes that has already been formed, they can be changed. They can be altered. And of course, there's also this other term called neuropruning. Neuropruning. I don't know how many of you do gardening. If you do gardening, you prune off certain side shoots of the plant in order to encourage the plant to grow taller. Or if you don't want the plant to grow any taller, then you cut off the top. All right. So neuropruning means something like that. It means that if you have a neural network, a neuroplasticity that's already formed, if you don't execute it, if you don't access it often enough, eventually you will lose it, because all the connections will start to break away. All right, and so we can't. That's why we will have to unlearn. That's why we also do relearn. All right, so that's all a process of keeping ourselves activating new processes of neuroplasticity to better ourselves all the time as we go along. Okay, so so these are the objectives, and of course to talk about NLP and why is it that NLP is one of the best ways for neuroplasticity enhancement. All right, and of course what is in an NLP training, and how to go about selecting and choosing an NLP training. Okay, so like I said, we used to believe that the brain, once it's formed, is fixed. All right, neuroplasticity research have now discovered that that's not true, as in new networks form all the time. So when we learn something, when I'm telling you and sharing this information with you, and there are thought processes that are going on, you are effectively activating your neuroplasticity process already. You are rewiring some of the connections, perhaps changing a belief that, the brain cells, once the brain is fixed, and we have it for the rest of our life. No, that's not true. We can change it. Okay. So in the essence, neuroplasticity discovers that miracles can happen when we are open to new experiences, when we're open to new learnings. All right, we can always alter. See, the experiences that you had in the past, will be perceived, will be navigated differently when you have new learning. All right, when you empower yourselves with new knowledge, new information, for example. Okay, so it's effectively a neural network for any thought, every time you access the feelings, behaviors, or every time an outcome is produced. Now, so those of you who are familiar with NLP, does the word strategies come to mind? Does the word strategies come to mind? Strategies in NLP means, a neural network. In other words, what our brain goes through, effectively what it is doing, how it is doing what it does to produce a consistent outcome. All right. And in NLP, we learned that through the use of the NLP's collection of techniques, we can effect changes in our neural network, thereby changing how we think, how we feel, and how we behave, how we respond, how we react to certain external stimulus. And we can manifest our destiny. We can produce desired outcomes. So neuroplasticity serves the same purpose. All right. So we can teach the old dogs new tricks. In doing so, then I believe that we ought to be able to teach ourselves new tricks. Yeah. So in neuroplasticity, we discovered that we can produce new neurons, we can establish new connections, we can re-establish new connections, we can rewire, or that we can even lose the neural network if we don't access something often enough. All right, which also brings to mind and how these two modalities are closely knitted and closely related. Neuroplasticity and neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP in short. You are in control of your mind, so you can influence your outcome. All right, so that in a nutshell is what neuroplasticity is all about. Okay, at this point in time, I can take some questions before I move on. Okay, so what questions do you have? What do you want to ask me? I cannot see the whole chat box again. The whole window. How do I get the whole window to come out? I better go back to my my eCam. All right, let me see. Opening the chat box. All right, so yes, and patterns. And it's the first time you are here joining us. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Vichay. Vichay, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I hope you managed to catch the earlier portion when I described what neuroplasticity is. This is actually a new series that I'm doing. I've done 18 videos with the Inspirational Moments with Billy series, which was a live stream before, and now updated and uploaded to our YouTube channel. So while you're at the YouTube channel, for those of you who are there or on our Facebook pages, please like, subscribe, comment, and we can take on ongoing discussions as we go along. So Vichay, tell us where you're from. So we have Ivan, who's from Ukraine. Is it Ukraine?
In Ukraine, yeah.
I know he's in Ukraine. Is he Ukrainian? Which reminds me of this other significant person who probably is among one of the pioneers, one of the first people to describe neuroplasticity. And that is Ivan Pavlov. Ivan Pavlov, the Nobel Prize winner in physiology. He studied gastric functions, and some of you may remember that Ivan Pavlov is more well known and remembered for the term classical conditioning in psychology. So if you can recall, it was all with his experiment with his bells and his dogs. And what would happen is that he would ring the bell and bring out a pail of meat for the dogs, and all the dogs come running to him and they're salivating. And in so doing, he has established and wired up a neural network that connects the ringing of the bell to food, and that causes the dog to salivate. All right, so he's one of the first people to describe neuroplasticity. Another person that comes to mind is Italian psychiatrist Ernesto Lugano. He's another one that has earlier description and findings about neuroplasticity. All right, so you're from Cambodia. Hi, welcome. Oh, so did Sharon's bring you in? Because I know Sharon's traveled to Cambodia quite a bit. Okay, so neuroplasticity, that's what it is. Quite a mouthful. Okay, so let me go on to show you the screen. Okay, are you there? When I show the screen, I can't see my own views and
projecting. It's
windows.
not projecting.
The slide is not projecting.
It's not projecting.
It's already projected. Okay, I better go back to eCam next. New share. Okay, I go to the share and then I got the slide and I projected the slide. Is it up?
Nope.
Is it up now?
No.
On my screen, it is up.
On ours, it's not.
Oh, gee.
Hey,
Okay, so what do I do?
Leave it. Hang on. Let me just change the screen.
Okay, because I'm going to get on to 9 ways to enhance neuroplasticity next. So neuroplasticity is an ongoing process of learning. It's an ongoing process of controlling, managing, wiring your brain so that you can produce more desired outcome and more desired results.
You just talk about it.
Okay. Okay, 9 ways to enhance neuroplasticity. First way is through NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming. So NLP is a collection of techniques that discover how the brain works in order to produce thoughts, feelings, actions that manifest into an outcome, that manifests into a result, that manifests into a scenario. All right, and how with a collection of techniques, we can influence almost every aspects of our thinking, our feelings, and our behaviors in order to produce desired and better outcome for ourselves. All right. So neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, is one of the ways I recommend to enhance your neuroplasticity. Another method, another technique we can use to enhance our neuroplasticity is through hypnosis. Right, because hypnosis is in effect reprogramming the unconscious, all right, the mind, and therefore enhancing neuroplasticity by making alterations and changing programs so that we'll produce desired outcome. So hypnosis is another one, which I'm thinking that for the next session we will discuss about hypnosis. Let me know if that would be something that you would like. So I cannot see the chat box now because I don't have the Zoom window at all. All right. Okay. Another way is obviously going through training, reading by continuously pursuing, acquiring new knowledge, new information, because every time we learn something new, it changes our neurological makeup inside. There's some kind of alteration that's going on. All right. So the alteration could be, well, if you read something good, then you're creating positive neuroplasticity. If you are, reading nonsense, then obviously you will be creating negative neuroplasticity. So do exercise your choice carefully. All right. So likewise, selecting training through coaching, you can enhance neuroplasticity. And in fact, all of for those of you who are NLP coaches and NLP master coaches, what you are effectively doing with your client is helping them create new neuroplasticity processes. Okay, or altering or rewiring the old neuroplasticity processes, depending on which one is the one you want to change to get desired and positive outcome and results. Okay, aromatherapy, that helps. Okay, acupuncture helps. All right, through and so now comes the hard sciences. Through the use of medications, nutrition, and supplements that can alter neuroplasticity. How many of you ever bought things? You ever bought supplements or nutrition that's supposed to enhance your memory? Have you bought things that will supposedly enhance your mental health, brain health, right? If you have done so, then you're probably familiar with the use of supplements and nutritions to alter neuroplasticity, new processes. And of course, medications such as antidepressants and all of that help to create neuroplasticity. This boy has finished his treat and he's bothering me already. Okay, now sit down. Okay, yeah, Maui. That's Maui, the dog I'm talking about. He don't set a goal, like I want 100 bones this year, whereas we humans do that. Okay, of course, illegal drugs create a lot of alterations in our neurology through the use of meditation, chakra cleansing, yoga practices, all of these can help us enhance our neuroplasticity. So yes, you can definitely choose to take an NLP training. You can go for hypnotherapy or take up hypnosis training. Go for more training. Read up more. Watch more information and YouTube videos that help you learn new things. That all changes your neuroplasticity. Coaching, aromatherapy, medication, supplements, illegal drugs. Actually, long ago, back in the days, they realized that smoking creates neuroplasticity because the intake of nicotine actually hype up your entire biological being, and that in turn create changes. All right, so remember those days, in the much earlier days, where the artists, the songwriters and the singers, they a lot of them go on drugs, and in order to get inspirations to write some of the most memorable songs and most popular songs that we still have up till today. Okay, so they use illegal drugs, of course, not recommended. That's one of the way that you want to cancel out. All right, through meditation, chakra cleansing, yoga, and finally, day-to-day mindfulness. All right, so if you can see, I'm going through the slides anyway. So these are the 9 ways to enhance your neuroplasticity. Now I've come up with an acronym some 23, 24 years ago, when I developed a life success student seminar boot camp for students. And one of the things that I taught them was over and above the speed reading, solving complex mathematical sums, problems, as well as activating creativity, learning languages, and all that. So I came up with this acronym called RULES. All right. So RULES can be used to fine-tune your neuroplasticity. So think of your neuroplasticity as like your operating system, your OS, or the app. All right. If you like, these are rules to fine-tune these apps, these operating systems, and this neuroplasticity within yourself. Okay. R is for repetitions. So anything you repeatedly do, all right, of course, the first time you do it, you start to form the neuroplasticity, the neural network. And when you repeatedly do that, you find that you get better and better at doing that. Maybe initially you need to be conscious about it, but as you go along, you don't need to be conscious about it. It becomes unconscious because the neuroplasticity network is already formed. And because of that, you can execute it without being mindful about it. All right. So one of the things, remember, I recommend that you practice day-to-day mindfulness. So day-to-day mindfulness includes being mindful to what you're exposing yourself to repeatedly. So in other words, if you expose yourself repeatedly to a negative environment, then you develop a negative neuroplasticity. And then obviously you're going to manifest it into a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that becomes your reality. All right. So neuroplasticity allows us to alter our reality. So R is for repetition. So if you want to develop and strengthen a new neuroplasticity, a new pattern, a new program, repetitions is one of the ways to do it. Okay. U is for unusual. Anything that's very exceptional, that's very unusual, it jogs your brain, it engages your brain straight away. And that means the process of neuroplasticity is already ongoing, has already been kick-started, so to speak. All right. L is through learning. So as I mentioned earlier on, learning is one of the ways to fine-tune and to develop new neuroplasticity. E is for engaging. So as you are going about repeating the processes in order to strengthen a pattern, as you're learning something, make sure it's as engaging as possible. And by engaging, it means allow it to engage you visually, auditorily, as well as kinesthetically. All right, so we engage you through seeing, hearing, feeling, maybe even doing. So the more of the senses it engages, the more powerful it is in influencing and rewiring neuroplasticity process. All right, and the S is to the power of 3. So the first S is sequence. Okay, sequence because naturally, anything that happens for the first time and the last time, we tend to remember it better. All right. So if you have an important message to send when you are making a presentation, for example, right, your most important point should come first. All right. And your significant point can come last. People remember the first and the last. Typically, whatever there's in between, not quite, unless put in some hard work or review your notes. Okay, and then the other two S's would be specific stimulus. Now, so those of you in NLP, you know that we can use anchoring, where you can press on your knuckle and that itself can activate a whole process, a whole neuroplasticity process. In other words, you can activate a program to get yourself into a peak performance state, or to get yourself into a feel-good state, or a calm state, or creative state. Any of those states can be created with specific stimulus. All right, so keep in mind the rules and the 9 ways to go about enhancing your neuroplasticity. Now, can you see the slide, or still cannot see the slide?
We can see what we can see is your slide, not projected. We see all 6 slides.
Oh, okay. Let me try this and see if it works better this way. Now, let me escape. Okay, for now, type in the chat box and let me know what questions you have and what do you want to ask me. As I put down this boy who's bothering me now. Okay, chat box open. Where's my chat box? I can't see the chat box.
You have to press escape on your screen is too big.
I did already. I press escape. Okay, tech not going too well today.
Yeah. Training.
Well, we learned something. So that's a neuroplasticity process. All right, let's see. Yes. Ginkgo. All right. So in response to my earlier question, right? Do you take supplements that are supposedly good for your mental health, help you to remember, enhance memory? By the way, it's now been proven that those supplements, ginkgo biloba, that was promoted as the supplement that can enhance your mental health, enhance your memory, it's actually proven not true now. It's actually proven to be untrue. I mean, ginkgo biloba has some little impact, positive impact on your mental health, but it does not enhance your memory. Okay, so if you want to enhance your memory, use the rules that I just shared with you. All right, repetitions. All right, remember when you first learned your alphabets, for example, or your mathematics times table. All right, you go through a lot of repetition, didn't you? 1 times 3 equals to 3, 2 times 3, 6, 3 times 3, 9, and you go through a lot of repetitions until you get it, right? And then parents came out teaching modalities, new methods, came out with flashcards, and also those are all ways that help us to develop neuroplasticity and of better memory, and therefore, you have better memory. Okay, so the 9 ways that there you go: NLP, hypnosis, training, coaching, aromatherapy, medication, supplements, illegal drugs not recommended, meditation, chakra cleansing, yoga, day-to-day mindfulness. So day-to-day mindfulness means, pay attention to what you repeatedly expose yourself to. All right, and make sure that you process the learning. In other words, don't let what happened influence you to think in a certain way, because then that developed a neuroplasticity. And if what you're exposing yourself to, or what you come across, what you're there and it happened, all right, is negative, then you form a negative neuroplasticity. So what you want to do is you want to be mindful about what is this experiences and exactly what you are learning. Okay, NLP people do a reframe. Aromatherapy. So question from Sharon's: how does aromatherapy help in learning? Okay, when I need to be creative, there are certain aroma scents that I like to use that actually put me in a state. Okay, so aromatherapy, because you intake it very much like supplements that you take, right? It goes through your nose, and when it goes through your nose, it actually goes direct into your frontal cortex, right? So it gets direct into your brain. Now that can alter your state, can it? And that state, when altered, is a new neuroplasticity. For example, I want to be alert, I want to be awake. Maybe I will use peppermint oil as a form of aromatherapy. When I want to be relaxed, I will use lavender oil. All right, Kate, don't want to put you in a spot here, but can you take over and talk about NLP?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, like share with us what NLP can do, and how we can use NLP, and what benefits NLP can give us.
Oh wow, how long do you give me?
I will jump in when I'm ready.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so basically, for those of you, I know some of you are already certified in NLP. For the benefit of everybody, let's just get everybody on the same, on the same in the same place. NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. We've been talking a lot about it. NLP. And basically, if you were to ask me to define NLP, it's about what works on a daily basis to help us achieve whatever we want to achieve. So it starts off with your brain and how your brain receives information and processes it and stores it. And then it's also about the linguistic part. So that is neuro. Linguistic is all about communication, both verbal, non-verbal communication, how we can be more effective in our communication, except that most of us are not even fully aware of how we communicate. And the third part is the programming. So the programs that we run on a daily basis, that whether we think about it, like when you wake up in the morning, do you jump out of bed or do you hit the snooze button 10 times? When you are getting ready, so you're brushing your teeth, everybody has a different process. Some people will wash their face first, some people will shower first, some people brush their teeth first, some people are going to have a cup of coffee first. Those are just your pattern or your program. And your programs include your habits, your phobias, your belief system. Everything is a program. Now, the why I like the word program is it's like a computer. If the program works, all well and good. If the program doesn't work, we can always, reprogram. We can always debug it and reprogram it so that we can function better in the longer term. Yep. Over back.
Okay, so NLP to me is like a collection of techniques. So there's a technique for to achieve a specific outcome. All right, so it's a collection of techniques to program your mind. So the program and the neuro, with the use of linguistics, verbal and non-verbal. Therefore, we can change our outcome because NLP allows us to control our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. Okay, so typically an NLP training goes through different levels of certification. All right, so if you while I come across people who, when they know that I'm an NLP master trainer and that I teach NLP, some of them come up with a quick response, oh, NLP, oh, I know NLP. I said, well, have you taken a training in NLP? Yeah, I attended a 1 hour talk on NLP. If you attended a 1 hour talk on NLP, you don't really know NLP. I mean, you probably have some information and introductory knowledge to NLP, but you don't really know NLP. Even if you attended a one-day workshop, you don't really know NLP. All right. So if like as with any processes, okay, knowing neuroplasticity so that you can enhance it and utilize it to create desired outcome for yourself. And one of the ways to do so, and one of the best ways to do so, is by using NLP techniques. Then take a proper NLP practitioner certification training. Okay, so practitioner certification training is the first level. The next level will be the master practitioner certification training, and then the trainer certification. Now, trainer certification is when you're certified as trainers, then you can certify practitioners and master practitioners. And then the highest level of certification in NLP is the master trainer certification. And I'm delighted to share and that both Kit and I are NLP master trainers. All right. So in taking the NLP training, know that trainers and master practitioners can conduct a practitioner training. But that anybody who has actually read a book or watched several YouTube videos on NLP can profess to know NLP and talk about NLP and maybe even teach people NLP based on whatever they already know about NLP. So I think it's important when you take an NLP training, whether you train with someone who is new, whether you train with a trainer or whether you train with a master trainer. All right. So, well, if you're going for more content, more information, you're inquisitive, you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of problems to solve, you have big ambitions to change the world and inspire many, many people, coach many, many people, then obviously you need to be very robust with your learning. All right, so NLP benefits us by helping all our students and all learners of NLP develop empowering operating principles. Now, one look at the gallery view. I think most of you have done an NLP training. Most of you who are joining us this evening has done an NLP training. So in NLP, you know that the first thing we cover is we learn NLP presuppositions. Those to me are like fundamental operating codes, right? Those to me are like empowering operating principles, and I think if we equip everyone with NLP presuppositions and everybody live and operate with NLP presuppositions as their guiding principles, the world automatically becomes a better place. Yeah. Okay, so one allows us to develop empowering operating principles. NLP also teaches us how to set goals, and not just goal setting, but that how to set goals in ways that will increase your probabilities of success. Right. So gone are the days where you set your New Year resolution in January and forget all about it in February, only to remember in December. All right. With NLP goal setting methods, you actually increase your probabilities of success. And here I want to chip in with what I've also discovered and what I've also learned when I got into researching about neuroplasticity. And that is when you set a goal, when you have an affirmation, it is a lot better to say it out than to just think it in your mind. All right. It's a lot better to write it out than to just think it in your mind. All right. For one, anything that's out of sight is out of mind. So if you don't write it, then you tend to forget it. All right. So writing it down, putting it in places that you will see often, allows you to activate that neuroplasticity of working on your goals and achieving your goals and motivating you and driving you to take the steps necessary to help you achieve your goals. Yeah. Okay, so saying out loud, according to some neuroscientists, actually increases the probabilities of success by up to 10 times. Okay, I don't know how many of you are hearing this for the first time. So when you set a goal, when you have an affirmation, instead of just thinking in your mind, by saying out loud, you actually multiply your probabilities of success by up to 10 times. Okay, so I hope that's another takeaway that you can that you can utilize after our session today. NLP allows us to communicate, influence, negotiate, and convince people much easier, much more powerfully. Allows us to build rapport relationships easily. NLP allows us to install and access peak performance states at will. So as and when you want a particular state, you can actually just activate the state like that. And yes, for those who have done NLP training, it's through the process of anchoring, stacking anchors or resource anchors. Okay. Navigate your emotions and eradicate negative emotions. We can use processes like switch patterns. In NLP, we can use processes like collapse anchors to help us navigate emotions and eradicate negative feelings, right? Because if you have negative feelings, then there must be a neural network, a neuroplasticity that activates these negative emotions. All right. So by knowing how to navigate and eradicate them, you are fine-tuning, you are developing and creating a new neuroplasticity. NLP allows you to tweak your thinking patterns so you can develop new neuroplasticity, turn limiting beliefs into liberating beliefs instantaneously. Those of you who have done it, you know. Someone with a limiting belief and may have had it for like years, we can change it in a matter of minutes, right? And the process is some modalities belief change. NLP enhances control and discipline for us when it comes to food and drinks. All right, and that's through the contrastive analysis and mapping across food like to dislike process. Get rid of bad habits, switch patterns, get rid of procrastination, apathy. Procrastination, apathy, we can use chaining anchors to help us effectively get rid of it. And of course, integrate internal conflicts. And reason for that is that whenever we have internal conflicts, I don't know if you notice, but like the negative ones always win. Negative ones always win. All right. And either that or we get frozen. So we don't act to get what we desire. By integrating your internal conflicts, we integrate the conflicting parts to realize that it is one whole, and creates fuel and creates a drive for us to do what is necessary and do what we really want to do, rather than be frozen, or rather than not doing anything or going back to the negative one. For example, if a part of you want to put on shoes and go for a workout, another part want to sit down and do nothing, you end up doing. All right. Learning NLP allows you to discover your purpose, your drive, your motivation, what lights your fire inside, so you can live life more purposefully. You can live with drive. You can live with inspirations. And of course, the process of going through the training itself help you resolve a lot of issues and problems that you may have accumulated over the years, and help you to unleash your potential. Okay, so that's it. That's what I have for you this evening. And yeah, it's about an hour. All right, so saying your goal out loud multiplies your probability of success by up to 10 times. Yes. All right, so make it a habit and start doing this. Okay, questions on neuroplasticity or NLP or any of these things that you'd like me to elaborate and talk about more? And yes, because we are on the Zoom, right? So you can unmute yourself. Yeah, you can unmute yourself. You prefer to ask your question verbally rather than having to.
I have a question.
Oh yes.
Is neuroplasticity also what explains how, when somebody, like if they have an accident and they injure the brain, that the brain is the part that's damaged, the other part of the brain can actually grow and learn more?
Okay, excellent question. Actually, that's the basis of where neuroplasticity comes from. When the neuroscientists were doing their researches and all that, the hard sciences, right, in the lab and all of that, it was these incidences were one of those things, one of the first things that inspires them to examine into this area. So, for example, someone can lose one side of the brain, And for a long time, we learned the left brain, right brain theory, right? So your left brain is supposed to be able to help you to do what, and your right brain is supposed to be able to help you to do what. So someone had an accident, and in the process had a very bad brain damage, and have to go through a surgical procedure to remove one side of the brain. And so you think that, wow, if the person's right brain is being removed, then this person will not be creative. This person cannot access emotions readily, will not be musical. All right. If the right brain is the one if the left brain is the one that's removed, then the person cannot think logically, cannot think sequentially, cannot solve mathematical sums, turn out to be untrue. Because you see, neuroplasticity is a process where new neurons get to be created. So what you don't have, you can grow. And when you grow these new neurons, it links up with all the other related neurons and it creates all the connections. It gets wired up, and that forms a new neural network. So even for people who, particularly there were specific incidences of people who lose one side of the brain, they were able to do those things that the side that they lost supposedly should let them do or shouldn't let them be able to do, right? So we can actually develop capabilities. We can develop new capabilities. In other words, it's not restricted to whether you have the whole brain or not. All right. Someone who lost the cerebellum, which is a part primarily is responsible for our balance and our motor, our coordinating our movements and all. You would think that this person then cannot walk and all that, but you know how many people we know have gone through a stroke, for example, that causes significant damage, of course, to the heart and then to the brain as well, because a lot of neurons die when the heart is not able to carry oxygen and blood to the brain, right? And so they lost the ability to walk. Have you seen them learning how to walk, relearning how to walk, going through rehab, going through physiotherapy, and relearning how to walk? And many of them I know, from the time they were, walking on sticks, or from the time they were in the wheelchair, they start to walk on clutches and then on sticks. And now even without the use of walking sticks, they can walk. All right. So the brain has this capability to renew itself. Another thing that's quite common is that, people believe, for a long time, there seemed to be this belief that if you have to use your brain a lot to think, to solve problems and all of that, you hurt your brain. In Chinese, 伤脑筋. All right, so you hurt your brain, to solve this problem, how many brain cells die? Actually, the contrary is true. If you are able to solve a complex problems, you are actually developing new neuroplasticity and new capabilities, rather than, killing your brain cells because you use it too much. In fact, if you don't, then you are doing neuro pruning. You are cutting off all the connections and the existing neural networks. So skills that you have, if you don't use them, will you lose them? Yes. You lose them. All right. Driving, for instance. So you pass your driving test 20 years ago, and you haven't been driving for 20 years. Now I give you a car and ask you to drive. Would you be able to instantaneously go in and drive like how you used to 20 years ago? Or does it take you a while to reconnect back all the dots and all the pieces? All right. And quite literally, your brain is going through the process of neuroplasticity to reestablish, to adapt, to integrate, and to reorganize, restructure, and get back that same neural network, that same pattern, that same program. All right. And of course, with a little bit of warm up, you'll be able to drive. So as much as you don't forget, we do go through a process of neural pruning, cutting away all the connections in the network. All right. So it's actually good and healthy to be doing Sudoku regularly, to be playing Scrabble, for example. All right. Because it engages your brain. All right. And if you like, call this brain gym. Putting your brain through a workout actually make it better. It actually makes it better.
So it's okay to play Candy Crush?
Sure, why not? If by playing Candy Crush allowed you to develop neuroplasticity to go beyond being good at playing Candy Crush, to go beyond, upping your levels in Candy Crush. I don't know what Candy Crush is, but I figure all games have a kind of level, right? Because it engages your neuroplasticity. The brain is constantly seeking out for more. Right? So you want to conquer the next level. You want to conquer the next level, and that gives you that drive. Now, if you're able to use this neuroplasticity, that gives you that drive to want to achieve, to want to accomplish, and turn it into your goals, and put that neuroplasticity network to integrate with your professional goals, with your personal goals, that can actually be very useful. Because that's the network, part of which gives you the network that gives you the drive, that motivation can readily be replicated and utilized because it's already there. You just need to tap on those neurons to create new synaptic connections and rewire and come up with a new neuroplasticity and network. And that can allow you to excel in the different areas of your life. All right. NLP word for this is called modeling excellence, and this is modeling self-excellence. In other words, discovering how you develop the drive and motivation when you're playing games and applying that neural network, that neuroplasticity into achieving your career goals or your personal goals. That increases your probability of success. So yeah, very good questions. Very good questions. Yeah. So the hard sciences, not my kind of thing, because traditional science is very slow. It's a very long process. So those I leave it to the neuroscientists and the neuroscience experts. For me, I just want to extract the essence, be able to use it, be able to share it, right? So that more people can use it. Traditional science is too slow and very long. There's the researches that needs to be done. There's a documentation. There's the hypothesis development. There's a testing of hypothesis. There's a population sampling. And then you got to do a lot of lab work. And finally, you need FDA approval, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that take a long time. All right. That said, we have also come a long way now with development of new medications to treat new different diseases and all of that. In fact, right now there are some people who actually are investing into neuroplasticity to learn how to, how effectively we can, tap on the neurons. So now with all the new equipments and machines that we have, we're able to map the brain a lot better than we used to be able to do. All right. So in some ways, we may even be able to see certain neurons that are lighting up, that form a certain neural network. For example, when you're motivated. Okay. So if we can detect exactly which cells, which neurons are responsible, we may even be able to insert wires into the brain and do a forced hardwire connection between neurons. All right. And maybe even transfer learning of a new language, for example, through the machines directly into your mind, tapping and utilizing the concept of neuroplasticity. Hey, Matrix, the blue pill or the red pill. Actually, I forgot what's the blue pill for and what's the red pill for. But he was able to program the mind and learn Kung Fu, right? By just lying down for 10 minutes, downloading that program. Okay, that's actually something that's going on now in the labs. All right, of course, with interested parties and people who invest to do researches in this area. Yeah. So for all you know, in the future, learning a new language is just 10 minutes. It's just going to the lab, wiring up, programming, bam, you learn a new language. Schools will be so obsolete. It's not funny. Yeah. All right. So good. Thank you for the questions. By the way, we did not plan this because all Kid knew prior to today was that, okay, the topic is NLP and neuroplasticity. That's all. Right. So those were real questions that you thought about as we were discussing this. Right. So, what other questions do you have? What else would you like to know? And what would you like to discuss? It's okay to ask questions on NLP as well, since many of you have gone through a certification training. Practitioners, master practitioners, trainers.
We have trainers here, yes.
Yeah, master trainer.
Nope, nobody has questions. Well, then we can wrap it up. It's 8 o'clock. It's 8:06.
Yeah. Okay. So, what we can do on a day-to-day basis, be mindful of what you expose yourself to. And don't just be out there and passively taking in information as it is, because whatever is happening outside of you comes into you, and your neuroplasticity process is already ongoing. All right, because it's an ongoing process. So be mindful of what you expose yourself to. Reframe, learn from these experiences, no matter how negative they can be, in order to develop positive neuroplasticity for yourself. Because what happens on the inside gets projected on the outside. All right, the outcome that you get, the results that you get from moment to moment is a result of the neuroplasticity. All right, so be mindful on a day-to-day basis. And when you want to develop new neuroplasticity, remember the rules. All right, the rules with S to the power of 3. So repetitions, making something unusual, that makes it more memorable. All right, consciously learn, read, acquire information, acquire knowledge, because it can help shape and fine-tune your OS, your apps, and enhance your neuroplasticity. All right, make sure it's engaging and as engaging as possible, which is why I prefer watching videos than reading books these days. Yeah, I used to read like two to four books a week. Nowadays, I can conquer 20 videos in a day. Yeah. Right. And then sequence, all right, deliberately placing sequence on things, and know that the first time something ever happened to you and the last time that something happened to you automatically creates a strong neural network within you. All right, so make sure you're mindful about what you're exposing yourself to, so that you can tweak it to your own liking, so that you can make it. All right. So with that, I hope I've given you some new information, or at least learn a new term,
Billy, can I ask a
neuroplasticity.
question?
Yes, you can.
Awesome. My question is, what is the relationship with the calcification, if I can use that term, of the new neurological networks with time and with age? And have you observed that there is a difficulty in increasing difficulty, I should say, in using tools to dissolve or introduce new networks as we age?
Okay, so
Have you
that's
heard
another
terms
thing.
like the sudden disorienting dilemma,
Right.
for example, which is something that can cause a sudden rewriting of the brain in people, but younger people are much more prone to develop changes in their brain than people at age. So have you
Okay.
studied that?
Okay, so first of all, let's put this into perspective. Now, firstly, we also used to have this belief that as you grow older, your memory deteriorates, right? So we hear people in their 40s, we hear people in their 50s saying things like, "Oh, I'm getting old, my memory is getting bad." Actually, in essence, the memory did not become bad. The neurons did not stop regrowing, regenerating. All right, but they have a neuroplasticity. They have a program with this limiting belief, and that all they are doing is making it a reality by believing that my memory is now getting worse and worse as I age, and therefore they are performing that behavior. All right. Research shows that your neurons and how the cells regenerate and all really only start to deteriorate after age 65. In other words, people in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s have no business saying things like, "Well, I'm getting old, my memory is not so good." It's an excuse. All right. But
This
if you
is
think
not
of putting in context, right, the belief that, oh, I'm getting old, my memory must be bad, is what make it become a reality. And so they don't remember.
I didn't mean the aging of the brain. I meant the solidification of old neurological networks, for example, beliefs or patterns or habits, as they stay longer and they're maintained longer. In other words, when
Right.
they become big eight-lane highways, does it take more tools to introduce a new path that we can grow into a highway, a new habit, a new belief?
I would say it doesn't take more tools, but it definitely requires the right tools. The right technique executed precisely and accurately. In other words, performing the right techniques right, doing it right. So no, it doesn't. It actually does not make it more stubborn. Like if this person has a limiting belief, and the neural network, because of age, right, it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger because this person keep doing it. So the neuroplasticity is very strong. Okay, the program is very strong. It does not take more. It does not require more efforts, more techniques to change that, but it requires the right technique that is done correctly in order to change that. So you're an NLP master practitioner. You know that the NLP belief change process is a very powerful process that can actually change a limiting belief and turn it into a liberating belief in a matter of minutes. Even though the person may have that particular limiting belief for the last 10 years. In other words, it's gotten very strong. The neuroplasticity of that limiting belief is gotten very strong. We can actually still dismantle it because that's what NLP is very good at. NLP discover how you go about creating that limiting belief and utilizing that process that you use to create a limiting belief, interrupt the pattern, and then using that process to generate a liberating belief to replace the limiting belief. So in NLP training, we said that anytime you get rid of something, you must replace it with something else. So when you get rid of a limiting belief, you must replace it with a liberating belief. You get rid of a bad habit, you must generate a new behavior to replace it. So that because what happens when you use an NLP technique, for instance, you are rewiring that neuroplasticity. Suddenly you reorientate the neuroplasticity to work differently. All right. And because of that, it produces new habit. Now, that's not to say that the old neuroplasticity is already pruned off completely, but that is rewired and reorientated. So if the person does not reinforce back and your techniques are not robust enough, your new neuroplasticity is not as strong to overcome the old neuroplasticity. I hope that answers your question. It's kind of like quite a mouthful.
Yeah, it kind of confirms my suspicions. I have one more question if we have time.
Sure.
We have time. And I think this will be interesting for some of the people here. What is your view on using NLP for self-therapy versus therapy for others and coaching others? As I believe not everybody here wants to be a coach and help others. They may be carrying a belief of I'm not good enough of some sort, and they want to help themselves, but don't know if NLP can be used for that.
Oh, sure, definitely. In fact, I would say this. What is the use of learning something, investing your money, your time, your effort, your energy, all your resources into learning something that you cannot use it to help yourself? How can you become a more effective coach if you cannot coach yourself? Right? Which is also why the way in which we design our training now, I cannot say the same of other trainers' training. All right. But the way in which we design the training, we've taken all this into consideration, as in before you come to the class, you're given a worksheet. And that during the class, as you learn the technique to use it to coach your fellow classmates, you are going through the process of coaching yourself. You are going through the process of therapy yourself. You are getting rid of your own limiting beliefs. You're getting rid of your own bad habits. You're getting rid of your own, you're increasing your drive. You're increasing your motivation. All right. You're learning how to manage and navigate your emotions better. And which is why this kind of training is transforming. It creates breakthrough for people. All right. So the way in which we design the training, very important. And hence, I want to emphasize this again. Taking an NLP training is definitely good. Who you train with determines how significant it's going to be. So taking an NLP training with a certified NLP trainer is definitely good. But who you train with can determine the level of strength. Who you train with makes a difference, in other words. Yeah, so a well-structured training program and all that, very important. So when we do training programs, we don't just, okay, I have something to teach and that's it, we just do it. We go through a process of analyzing, thinking, planning, designing the program, putting it into a right structure. We got to use NLP to teach NLP. All right. So in knowing NLP, understanding learning strategies, understanding how the brain works, how neuroplasticity processes are being formed, we teach accordingly so that it's easy to utilize, it's easy to comprehend, it's easy to digest, it's easy to understand, and easy to apply. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question. All right. So no matter how strong a person's neuroplasticity is in one aspect of their life, all that is required is the right technique done correctly to effectively change and form a new neuroplasticity, because it's already an ongoing natural process. Yeah. Okay. So and coming back to people who are they have aged, they're getting older, probably also because they have more years to accumulate more limiting beliefs, form more bad habits. All right. And then they lost their sense of drive versus a young person. I mean, if you look at a kid, everything is new, everything is exciting, so they keep absorbing, they keep forming neuroplasticity. But when someone think they know it all, they don't realize that they are continuously accumulating negativity rather than, consciously changing, transforming, breaking out of all their old neuroplasticity of limitations and turning them into liberations. Yeah. So our past is not a prediction. We can change our past by changing now, by being mindful about what's ongoing, by understanding concepts like that, by learning the right techniques. You can effect change just like that. Okay, good. So I hope that answers the question and also inspires me to discuss more. All right. Any other questions? Who else have a question? So if a question popped up after we close the session today, feel free to message us, drop me an email, or make a comment on the YouTube video so that we can respond to that. Also, perhaps let me know what other topics will be of interest to you so that we can inquire and explore together. All right. So let me do the legwork for you. All right. And let me combine what I already know to and share it into an hourly session like this, so that collectively we can all learn much faster, easier, in a more interactive and fun way. All right. So my take is perhaps we discuss about hypnosis next. All right. But let me know what topics you'd like me to discuss and talk about. All right. So in mind, I have a lot of things like kinesiology. Maybe we get into chakra a little bit. Maybe we get into the different yoga methods. Maybe we get into different types of meditation techniques and all as we go along. Yeah. So I'll hear from you. All right. So thank you very much. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. All right. So that we can reach out to more people. Okay. So thank you, everyone, and a very good evening. And it's a pleasure to catch up with some of you whom I've not met for 7, 8 years, 10 years. Some of you have not met you at all before. Some graduates who have taken our training who, I wasn't there to do the training, so I did not get to meet you. So it's a pleasure to meet you. All right. So let's continue to forge our neuroplasticity here between one person to the next person, and then collectively see what we can acquire and explore. Together, we learn.